Hello, I'm Dr. Alva Kamerdiner. Welcome to Discrete Event Simulation. This is Lecture 15, Modeling Detailed Operations. We will talk about non-stationary Poisson process, schedule data module for arrivals and resources, sets, resource and counter and time-persistent statistics data module. We will build Model 5.2 and hence call center by modifying Model 5.1 that we considered in the previous lecture, Lecture 14. We'll do several changes to change Model 5.1 into 5.2. First of all, the incoming call arrivals rate will vary over a day, and we'll use a probabilistic model known as non-stationary Poisson process. And for more information, you can see section 12.3 in ARENA textbook. So instead of a constant rate, which we used before, which basically equals to 1 over mean inter-arrival time, we will specify a rate function. And ARENA supports piecewise constant rate function, which we know as a step function. And that's very easy to specify and also has a strong theoretical support and justification for using this type of distribution for arrivals. So we'll introduce these arrivals, and the table 5.2 gives us the call arrival rates in calls per hour. So you can see that it varies, and we have the changes in half hour. We have a change in the rate, and so each half hour or so, sometimes we have still the same rate, but we have varying rate, which is a function or step function, more precisely, of time. So we'll use this non-stationary arrivals. In ARENA, it's very important to remember that the rates must be in arrivals per hour, regardless of the base time units or time intervals. As you see in table 5.2, our time intervals are 30-minute or half hours, but the rates that are given, for example, for the interval from 8 a.m. to 8:30, we have a rate of 20. That's a rate of arrivals per hour. So again, the key caution is it's easy to generate this incorrectly, so you must make sure that you understand this, so you should see the textbook for more information. So we'll use this rate function specification, and so I'll demonstrate it in a little bit, but let me go ahead and continue telling you of what other additions we're gonna make in our Model 5.2. We also will introduce the sets for cross-train resources. So we'll use this ARENA sets module for this, and we'll also use cross-training. So we're modeling cross-training where different type of people can do different type of responsibilities. So the sales staff size will vary over the day, and there is information in the table that shows us of how the tech support staff, how many tech support staff we have. So we'll change also the sales staff, and we have a schedule based on schedule called sales schedule. And for tech support staff, we have cross-trained people who can serve different type of product lines. So, for example, Charity here, she can serve product 1, product tech 1, and so does Noah, and Tierney, Aidan, Tierney, Aidan, and Emma can do product 2, and again product 2, but Maya, Ian, and Christy can do product 3. But we also have some cross-trained people. For example, Molly can serve both product 1 and product 3, while Anna and Sammy can serve all 3 tech products. And so, as you can see, there's also differences in terms of their schedule, they have some 5-minute breaks in different times of the day. So we're gonna use this table, and that's again a 30-minute intervals that we have the whole time split into from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. And so we'll use this table to introduce schedules for tech support staff. So another change that will happen in Model 5.2 compared to Model 5.1 is that 4% of tech support calls cannot be handled during the call, and they will need this offline back office research. So original call ends, and the same original talk time distribution gives up its trunk line, but not counted yet as completed. So the case is sent to back office outside of the model boundaries, and it takes exponential 60 minutes to resolve this, and then offline research may be carried overnight and completed on a later day. So again, the answer goes back to the same tech support person who took original call with higher priority than incoming calls, but still might have to queue for this person. And then this tech support person requires a trunk line for outgoing call, and it has higher priority than incoming calls, but still might have to wait, right, or to queue, and then talks for a triangular with parameters 2, 4, and 9 minutes, and the call is completed. So we'll also track the number of each prototype after research is done. So let me go ahead and start showing you what we're going to do. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to do some changes in terms of resources and schedules. And we consider in these data structures, we're going to have the following changes in these data modules. We still have the trunk line as it was before, fixed at capacity of 26. But the sales we're going to now change, and we have the sales based on the sales schedule. So let me go ahead and do that in Arena. So here I open my Model 5.1 in the book, and I'm going to go ahead and save it. So I can say File, Save As, and I'm saving it in my models. So I'm going to modify my Model 5.1 into Model 5.2, and I'm going to do some changes on this model. So the first thing I want to do is I want to go to my resources and then change my sales. Right now all of my resources are just like they were in Model 5.1, and so sales are fixed capacity. So now my capacity is going to change, and so it will be based on schedule. So here it has a number, and so that's invalid. I need to rename it. So I'm going to rename it into sales schedule. And so as soon as I do that, it should now work. So again, this is my sales schedule. So see, now it accepts it, and then the schedule data module used to be empty. Now it has the sales schedule, which is a capacity-based schedule. We'll also talk in this lecture about arrival-based schedule, but this is a resource. So the sales, because sales is a resource, the sales schedule is a capacity-based schedule. And so I can choose the time minutes, whatever time minutes that I want to. And then I can also change the durations as well. So I'll need to change my time units to half hours. So I'm going to go ahead and change this to half hours. And then I could do it different ways. I could either double click here on durations, or I can click and double click here on the sales schedule to edit via the dialog, and then I can just add the durations here. Or I can, when I double click on the durations, I can, as I had before, I could indicate the schedule graphically. So that's my graphical editor for schedules. And again, if I wanted to do some changes, I could do the changes in terms of the options for my sales schedule. So maybe I want my, and again, so now, as that I changed it to 6, I can also see better the gradations in terms of 1, 2, and so on. So now this is going to be my schedule here. And then I have for 4, have 3, for 5 I have 2, and then I have, oops, I need to remain this 5 2.5 hours, and then 6 is gonna be 2, and then it's gonna be reduced for some time to 5 for 3.5 hours, and then again the other 3.5 hours is gonna be 6, and then I'm gonna have one more half hour at 5 capacity, and my capacity is reduced to 3 for 2.5 hours, and then at 2 for the rest 2. So that takes care of my day, of course. So if I looked at it and I wanted to add it via our schedule, I can see here, so I can double check 1 2 3 2 4 3 5 2. So if I were editing it, here I have my value of capacity first. So I have capacity 1 for the next 2.5 hours or a full hour. And then I have 3 and 2, 4 3, 5 2, 6 2, 5 3, 6 3, 5 1, 3 2, and 2 2. These are, again, right, this is my capacity is the first value, and then duration is the second value, and the time units in terms of durations is half hours, so it's 2.5 hours. So we're done with that. So now let me go back to the lecture slides. So as I said, we're going to talk more about the data structures in terms of resource and schedules. And as I mentioned, we're going to have these cross-trained people that can deal with different tech products. So we'll introduce 11 individual tech support people, and each of those people will have individual schedules, just like what we saw in this table. Let me demonstrate the table. So I'm referring to this table where we have, these are the names of our technicians. So we have Charity, Noah, Molly, Anna, Sammy, Tierney, Aidan, Emma, Maya, Ian, and Christy. And this is a table of their individual schedules. As you can see, those dots represent the time when they are working. So now we need to also be careful because we must fill out each schedule to all 22 half-hour periods. And this is important, right? Because if we didn't, then it wouldn't be, they wouldn't be aligned, the arena wouldn't align them properly. So there will be some leading and trailing zero capacities that we might need to include based on that tables that I just showed you. So we could actually, in this case, it actually would be best for us if we added it using dialog as a spreadsheet and not the graphical schedule, because we need to make sure that we fill out each schedule for all 22 half-hour periods, because we operate the system for 11 hours, which corresponds to 22 half-hours. And another thing that we need to remember is we're going to have ignore option that we'll be using in our resources for the tech people, which is different from what we had before, and this is necessary so that we avoid shifting back schedule over multiple days. So let me go ahead and do that. And also we'll include some costing data for people in the resource data module, because it depends on they all have, the different people have different costs. For example, the cross-trained people receive larger per hour wage, and Anna and Sammy, as you know, they're cross-trained to do all three different tech products, tech product 1, 2, and 3, and so they receive their wage, hourly wage is the highest. They receive $22 per hour, both during their busy and the idle time, so it also counts for their breaks. And we'll also have similar things for the rest of the tech people, just a different kind of costs. So let me go ahead and demonstrate that. So I'm back in the schedule here, which is in basic process. So now I need to make changes to other resources, and so I'm replacing these Tech 1, Tech 2, and Tech 3, all of these resources, with individual people. 11 individual people we'll have here. So let me go ahead and do that. So I'm going to change this to charity, and it's going to be based on schedule. So I click here and change the type from fixed capacity to based on schedule, and then I'll have charity schedule. And I'm going to change, very importantly, change the schedule rule from wait to ignore, to avoid moving them to the next day, because we can't do that. And then we'll also have Noah, and he'll have his own schedule as well. So I'm changing his type to based on schedule, and have his individual schedule. So I'm typing name Noah schedule, and changing the rule to ignore. And then here I will have Molly, and here again changing the type to based on schedule, have Molly schedule, and change the schedule rule to ignore. Also, I will need to change their cost to have them incur the cost of 18 per hour for charity during busy time and idle time, and it's the same as for Noah. And because Molly can do, she can do both types 1 and 3 products, she gets 20 per hour, so I'm going to indicate that as her cost, her labor cost. And then I'm going to introduce additional resources. I'm going to insert more rows, so I'll need to insert additional rows and more. And altogether I already did 7, so I gotta get more inserted. So altogether I need 11. So let me go ahead and continue changes this. So the next resource is Anna, based on schedule, and then here Anna's schedule, and then we have ignore as our schedule rule, and Anna and Sammy gonna have 22 as their wage per hour. So here's also Sammy, and again should be based on schedule, and we have Sammy schedule, and the busy rule, our schedule rule is ignore. 22 here and 22 here. And then I also have Tierney based on schedule, and here's Tierney schedule. Ignore Tierney can do product 2, so get 18 per hour. And then we have Aiden, Emma, ignore 18. And just to make it faster for me, of course, I could just change this to, say, Aiden. And then it changes a lot of things. So all I need to do is change this as well as the schedule. So I'm going to rename it to Emma. And then have Emma's schedule here, because each of them have to have their individual schedules, and all of them are different. And so here again, I could choose, for example, Emma. And here's another Emma. And here's another Emma, just so, right, it automatically changes based on schedule and my schedule rule to ignore. But then I, of course, need to change. So, so next person would be Shelly. So I keep this Emma, but then the rest I'm gonna change. So next we have Shelly. And so I'm gonna change this. This is very important to remember to change the schedule here to Shelly. And then here I have Jenny. And so I'll have Jenny, will have her own schedule. And then Christy. And then Christy will also have her own schedule. It shouldn't be Emma's schedule, it should be her own schedule. So I'm changing it, but the rest are fine. And so I introduce a few more resources that I don't need, so I can delete these. So I can delete the row, or just click on this and press delete button. And so now I have introduced all of these 11 new tags, so I can check whether I have all 11 of them. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I have 11 new tags. They all have their individual schedules, so the next thing I need to do is go into the schedule data module. Right now I'm in the resource data module in the basic process. I need to go to the schedule and update all of their schedules, because right now they don't have much in their schedule. You see, all of these new schedules have 0 durations. So as I mentioned, it wouldn't be possible for me to do that really through the graphical editor. So instead of double clicking here, I'm gonna double click here and continue editing. So first I'm gonna do charity schedule. So let me go ahead and make the changes. It's gonna be half-hour intervals. So change the time unit to half hours. And then I'm gonna start adding this based on so let me go ahead, the table. So let me go ahead and look up the table. So here is the table, right? The table that describes the schedules, individual schedules for all the 11 tech support people. So Charity is one of these people. And you can see we have, during the first half hour, she's busy. Of course, she's a single person, so the capacity is gonna be 1, 1, 1 during the first 7 half hours. During the 8th half hour, we're gonna have a 0, and then from 9, 10, 11, 12, and so on till 17, we're gonna have capacity 1, and then again, right, we're gonna have the rest 5 during which we're gonna have capacity 0 during these last. And it's very important that we introduce that, because if we didn't, then as soon as this finishes, then we're gonna start over again on this schedule, and that wouldn't be correct. So we need to make sure that we have these 5 trailing zeros here, and of course a 0 here. So let me go ahead and do that in Arena. So here, as you can see, I double-clicked on charity schedule, and now I'm adding the duration, so I can either double-click here or click add. So I'm just gonna double-click, and then my capacity is gonna be 1, and the duration is I could do, for example, duration during the first 7 half hours, and then I'm gonna add more, right? And then I can add capacity 0 during the next half hour, so just a single. And then again, I'm gonna click here, and I'm gonna say duration capacity 1 for the duration of the next. So we already had 8 of them, and then altogether we had, so it's from the 9th through the 17th. So we need another 8, and so we're gonna have, or actually we're gonna have, because it's from the 9th to the 17th, we're gonna have another 9, and so we'll get 9 as half hours, so it covers the 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 17. So one more that we need to add at the end of this list is those trailing zeros. So we're gonna have 5 trailing zeros added to represent the periods 18 through 22. And we're done with charity schedule. And then next we can do NOAA schedule. So let's go ahead and look it up. So as you can see, NOAA is going to be working during the, he's not working during the first 5 half hours. So he is coming and starting to work during the 6th half hour. So for NOAA, we have 0 during the first 5 half hours. Then during the next 6, we're going to have 1. And then we have a break, so it's going to be capacity 0 during 1 half hour. And then for the rest, which is 10 half hours, we're going to have capacity 1 again. So let me go ahead and introduce that in Arena. So now we're ready to do NOAA schedule. So I'm going to double click here to edit the schedule via edit dialog. So this is NOAA schedule. I'm going to, of course, change it to half hours. And then I'm going to go in and add some of those durations that we just discussed. So during the first 5 half hours, NOAA isn't working, so it's going to be 0, 5. And then he is working, so its value, capacity value is 1, and the duration is 6 half hours. And then another capacity 0 for a break, which is a half hour break. And then after that, we have capacity 1 for 9 half hours. And then for the rest 5 half hours, he's not working anymore. So we're good. We're done with actually that's incorrect. He was supposed to work, right? So here is only 6 and 9. That's too short, so I need to do some changes. So let me delete this one and then edit this one by double clicking, or I could just said edit. And so here should be from should be 10, and then it should be right. So what I'm trying to do is double check, right? So all the durations should be 22 half-hour durations, right? So this is 11 plus another one, 12 plus 10, 22. So the previous one wasn't adding up, so of course I knew something was wrong. So let me go ahead while I'm at it. Let me go ahead and scroll down and change other schedules to half hours so that I don't forget to do that. So I'm changing all my schedules to half-hour intervals because that's what we use or see there in that table is the half-hour intervals. So I'm gonna go ahead and change this also to half hours, and then this one to half hours, and this one to half hours as well, and this to half hours. So now I'm gonna go back and do some of the changes for Molly, because see, we haven't changed the Molly's schedule yet. So let me go ahead and look up that in the table. So here's my table. I can see Molly, first she doesn't work for the first two, so we have capacity 0 for duration 2 half hours, and then we have capacity 1 for next 6 half hours, and then again capacity 0 for 1 half hour, and then we have a capacity 10 for capacity 1 for the next 10 half hours, and then capacity 0 for the next 3 half hours. So let me go ahead and do that in Arena. So here in Arena, I'm gonna double click on Molly's schedule to edit it via dialog. It's already changed, my time unit's already changed to half hours. So the next thing I do is double click here, have her capacity 0, duration 2, as we discussed. Then I have capacity 1, duration 6. Then I have capacity 0 for a single duration, and then I'm gonna have capacity 1 for duration 10, and I also need 0 capacity for duration 3. And so if I double check this comes to 6 and 2 is 8, and 1 9, then 10 19, 19 and 3 22. So I'm good with Molly's schedule, and again I have time units half hours. So next is Anna's schedule. Let's look in the table what it means. So as you can see, Anna's schedule is in this row 4 here, and so first I have 4 half hours. She's not working, so capacity 0. So I have 0 capacity for the first 4 half hours. Then I have capacity 1 during the next 5 half hours. Then capacity 0 during 1 half hour. And then for let's see how many, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11. For 11 half hours I have her capacity 1, and then 0 capacity for next half hour. So let me go ahead and introduce that in Arena and do Anna's schedule in Arena. So now I'm gonna work on Anna's schedule. Double click here, already changed to half hours. I can also click add if I want it. So first I have her at capacity 0, duration 4. Then I'll double click and then I have capacity 1 and duration 5. And then again I have capacity 0 because it's a break, duration half hour, a single half hour. And then capacity 1 for the duration of 11. And then capacity 0 for the last half hour. And so again, double check, 1, 11, and 1 comes to 13, and then 9 here. Again, 13 and 9, 22. We're good with any schedule. Let's go back to the table and check semi-schedule. So here I'm back in the table. This is semi. This is semi-schedule in this row. So I can see during the first 3 half hours, she's not working. So it's 0 for semi. So we have 0 capacity for 3 half hours. Then I have capacity 1 for the 7 half hours. And then capacity 0 for 1 half hour. And then capacity 9 for, capacity 1 for the 9 half hours. And then capacity 0 for 2 half hours. So let's go ahead and change semi-schedule in Arena. So again, I'm double clicking on semi-schedule. I already have hours, then I can change the durations. So first I'm gonna have 0 capacity, duration 3, then I'm gonna have capacity 1 for duration 7, then I'm gonna have capacity 0 for duration 1, and then I'm gonna have capacity 1 for duration 9 half hours, and then last but not least I have capacity 0 and duration 2 half hours. So again, 3 and 7 is 10, and then 1 and 9 is another 10, and then 2 together 22. So we double check that. So the next is, let's go ahead and do Tierney schedule. So let's look it up in the table. So in the table we can see Tierney's schedule. First it starts with capacity 1. So Tierney is working during the first 7 intervals, then 0 capacity for 1 half hour, and then during the next 9 we have capacity 1, and in the last 5 we have 0 capacity. So let's do that. So here I'm going to double click on Tierney schedule, and already in half hours, so I'm going to have capacity 1 during 7 first half hours, then capacity 0, which is break. It's a half hour break, and then I'm gonna have capacity 1 duration 9 half hour periods, and I'm gonna finish with capacity 1 during the next 5. And so again, 1 and 7 is 8, 8 and 9 is 17, 17 and 5 is 22. So that adds up. Next is Aiden schedule. So here we see Aiden schedule. So you can see during the first 5 it's 0 capacity, then capacity 1 for the next 4. Then I have capacity 0, which is this half hour break, so 1 duration 1, so 0, 1 here, and then for the rest, which is 12, so you can see here 12, we're gonna have capacity 1. So let's do that. So now I'm doing Aiden schedule. Again, double click to edit in via dialog, and then double click at the end of the list to add the capacity and duration pairs. So as I mentioned, during the first 5 half-hour periods at 0, so we have 0, 5. And then Aiden is working during the next 4, so it's capacity 1, duration 4 half-hours. And then we have a break, so capacity 0 and single half-hour interval, and then again capacity 1 during the rest 12 hours, half hours. So again, when I add 5, 4, and 1, get 10, and then 12, 22. So we're done with Aiden. Next is Emma. So let's look it up. So here's Emma's schedule. So first is 0 capacity for duration 3, and then 5 half hours. We have capacity 1, then capacity 0 during 1 interval, and then we can see here capacity 1 during 11 intervals, and then capacity 0 during the last 2. So we are adjusting the schedule for Emma. So again, half hours. So Emma isn't working at first, so capacity 0, and then duration is 3, and then we're gonna have capacity 1, duration 5, and then we're gonna have capacity 0, duration 1, and then we're gonna have capacity 1, duration 11, and the last 2 half hours it's capacity 0. So now again 3 and 5 is 8, and 1 is 9, and 11 is 20, 22, which is correct. So we just need a few more schedules. So let me look up Shelly, and then Jenny and Christy. Oh well, actually it's not Shelly and Jenny. Christy is correct, but here we have Maya and Ian. So let me change Shelly and Jenny to Maya and Ian. But I also want to know Maya's schedule, so I can see during the first 7 I have capacity 1, then capacity 0 for 1 half hour, and then for the next which looks like 9, I have capacity 1, and then for the remaining 5 I have capacity 0. So let me go ahead and change Shelly to Maya, and also change the schedule. So I'm gonna go ahead and go back to the resource and change Shelly to Maya, and Shelly schedule to Maya schedule. And while I'm at it, I'm gonna change Jenny to Ian, and change Jenny's schedule to Ian's schedule. So that's what I did in resource data module. So now that I've finished with that, I'm gonna go to schedules, and let's see what happens. So now I have Shelly's schedule and Maya's schedule here. So I could, for example, delete these, or I can just rename because those are already in half hours. Let me just go ahead and delete Maya's schedule and change this to Maya schedule, and also change Jenny to Ian schedule, and delete this one. And so now I have Maya and Ian schedule, and again in resources I have Maya and Maya schedule, Ian and Ian schedule. So let's go back to the schedules and let's work on Maya's schedule. So I'm going to double click to edit via dialog. already in half hours. Then I'm gonna go in and have capacity 1 during the first 7 half hours. Then I'm gonna have 0 for 1 as a break, and then 1 and 9, and then I have 0 and 5. So again, 7, 1, and 9 is going to be 17, and 5 is 22. So let me double check Ian's schedule. So here's Ian's schedule. So during the first 5, we have capacity 0, so 0, 5, then 4 of capacity 1, then 0 capacity during 1 half-hour period, and for the rest, the remaining 12, we're gonna have capacity 1. So to change the Ian schedule, I'm gonna double click here in Arena on his schedule, and then double click, and give me a second. Now it says hours. I need to make sure it's half hours, so I changed my time units to half hours, and then I'm gonna click here, have 0 capacity for the first 5. Then I'm gonna have capacity 1 for 4, then capacity 0 for 1, and then I'm gonna have capacity 1 for 12, remaining 12. So again, together 5, 4, 1 is 10, and 12 is 22. We're done with Ian. Next, let's look up Christie's schedule. Here in the last row, we have Christie's schedule. So the first 3 capacity is 0. And then we have capacity 1 for the next 5. And then we have capacity 0 for 1. And then we're gonna have, so let's see, for the next 11, we're gonna have capacity 1. And then we have the last 2 is capacity 0. So let's go ahead and get that done. So I'm going to double click on Christie's schedule and add durations by double clicking here. So first we have capacity 0, duration 3 half hours. Then we have capacity 1, duration 5 half hours. Then we have capacity 0 again, and duration 1 half hour. And then we also have capacity 1, duration 11 half hours. And then here we have at the end capacity 0 for 2 half hours. So again, 3, 5, and 1 is gonna be 9, and then 9 and 11 is gonna be 20, and 2 is 22. So we're good on the schedules. So the next thing we want to talk about is the arrival schedules. So as I promised, we're going to define non-stationary arrival rate function, and we're going to use again the data module schedule in basic process, and we're going to add arrival schedules there. And we need to make sure to add the trailing zeros. So we can really do that through the graphical schedule editor. We'll be using edit via dialog, or you can also use spreadsheet. So let me go ahead and show you what we're gonna do in terms of the arrivals. In arrivals, we're gonna be using this information from this table that tells us about the rate function for different half-hour intervals. So we have altogether, as you can see, 20 arrival intervals, because the arrivals only happen till 6 o'clock. So after 6 o'clock, we're gonna have arrival rate of 0. So you can see that each time we have a different rate, and the arrival rate is per hour, even though the time interval is half an hour. So we actually would have an average of 10 arrivals during this time, because this rate is in per hour. So let me go ahead and do that in Arena. So here in Arena, we're in the basic process in the schedule data module being selected. And so we just recently did the schedules for the sales and for 11 different tags. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to double click here at the end and add additional schedule. I'm going to call it arrival schedule. And instead of the type capacity, I'm going to change this to arrival. And so my time units are also going to be half hours, because as you saw in that table, we had half hours. So I'm going to double click here to edit via dialog box, or I can also click and set it as edit dialog box. So double clicking here, I'm going to add the durations from that table that we just looked at. So my first duration is, as you remember from the table, was 20. Right, and it's my first half hour, so I'm gonna have duration is gonna be, the arrival rate is gonna be 20, and the duration is gonna be 1. And so I have these pairs of the arrival rates and durations, so it's gonna be 21. And then the next one was 35. Again, the arrival rate is in per hour arrivals, but my durations are half hours. So again, the next half hour is going to be 1, and then for the next half hour we're going to have arrival rate of 45, and then here we're going to have arrival rate of 50 for another half hour, and then I have 70, and then I have 75. And actually, let me show you 75 is going to be duration 2. So let me go and show you why. In fact, we just entered 20 because it's a single 35, single 45, single half hour 50, single half hour 70, single half hour. And next thing, we had 75 during this half hour, and then again 75 during this half hour. So we actually have 75 during 2 half hours. So that's why I put 75 as a arrival rate in calls per hour, and then 2 in terms of half hour intervals, because here during the 2 half hour intervals we have 75. And then we have 90, 95, 105, 110, and so on. So again, right, just entered 75 and 2. I'm continuing. So the next would be 90 and 1. And then I'm going to have 95 and 1. And then 105 and 1. And after that, I have 110 and 1. And then I have 95 and during 1 half hour. And then I have 105. And then I have 90. And then 85, duration 1, and then I have 90, duration 1, and then 70, duration 1, and 65 during 1 half hour, and during the next half hour I have 45 per hour arrival rate, and then I have 30 per hour arrival rate during the next half hour. And that's actually when we have, after 30, we have, that's already the 6 p.m. And so after 6 p.m., we're gonna have 0, and that's gonna be an infinite duration. So I'm gonna go ahead and type infinite there. And so for the rest, it will be 0. And so we're done with our arrival schedule. So as you can see, it has 20 rows. And the next thing I want to do is introduce this arrival in our create schedule. So we have 2 creates here. Now that we cut off the arrivals here through the schedule, we will delete this portion because we don't need to cut off arrivals. They already been cut off through the arrival schedule. But let's first make some changes. So I'm double clicking on my create module for create call arrivals. And then here, as you can see, right, the time between arrivals was random. Now I'm going to change this and select based on schedule. So I press schedule here. And here I can find the arrival schedule. So I'm going to change this in terms of the arrival schedule. And so that takes care of my scheduling. And so now it will be using the arrival schedule here. And actually you can notice, right, that when we edited this create call arrivals, that we had this entities per arrival and maximum arrivals. These were the variables, and then I used them in this part of the model where I had the logical entity changing these variables. These variables are not needed anymore because I already cut off the arrivals through the arrival schedule by indicating rate of 0 arrivals per hour, infinite after 6 p.m. So now I could just set it strictly to 1, as was the default value for entities per arrival for that variable, and then change this to infinite, and that would be okay. And then when I go to the variable module, now I don't need these variables, so I can just delete them from the system. So I can go ahead and delete the row here, and also delete this row. And so because these variables are not needed anymore, and also I'm going to delete this part as well, so I'm selecting all of this, and I'm just going to delete it. And when I go to the entity, now I don't have my entity anymore that dealt, that logical entity that dealt with cutoff arrivals. So I had cutoff arrivals entity. I don't have that anymore here, and it's not needed anymore because we have this. I also want to go to the run setup and do some changes there as well. So let's go ahead, before I do that, let's go ahead and review a few more things. So what I want to do before I do the other stuff that I mentioned is I want to talk about this new data structure that we haven't used before that's called sets. And sets is a module, it's a data module in an in the basic process. So this basic process data module sets can be used to collect the same type of items together. And we also have advanced set in advanced process panel that can do a similar type of things, but for a different type of items. And we refer to items in a set by original name or index or subscript in a set. So the sets that can collect the same type of items, and specifically for the sets module, we can use resource sets for each tech support product type. And the members will be those tech support resources that are qualified to serve a certain product. For example, Charity and Noah can serve product 1, and so is Molly. So Charity, No, and Molly are all can be included into the resource set for product 1, but also Anna and Sammy, they're also cross-trained to handle all 3 products, so they can do product 1, and so Anna and Sammy will also be in the resource set for product 1. So again, individual resources must already be defined in the resource data module, and we have defined those. And we can have overlapping membership in the sets, so some resources can be multiple sets. For example, Molly, Anna, and Sammy, right? They are cross-trained, so Molly will belong to a product 1 set and product 3 set because she's cross-trained to handle products 1 and 3. And then Anna and Sammy, they can do all 3 different types of tech products, so they will be in all product sets. And sets are ordered here, right? So we put most versatile support people at the bottom to save them for other calls, and we use preferred order in the C's module. So let's go ahead and do that. And so we will cease from a set in the model. So let's go ahead and do that in Arena. So as I mentioned, here in Arena, we have the set module from the basic process. So I'm gonna, right now, there's nothing here, but I'm gonna double click and add a new row. And I'll do that 3 times because I'll have 3 different products. So I'm gonna rename this as product 1, this one as product 2, and this one as product 3, because that's what they're gonna be handling. And so here we gonna be using sets that combine resources, but we could also combine counter statistics, tally statistics, or entity types or entity pictures. They can also be combined into a set. So right now my products sets 1, 2, and 3, they have no members, so they're empty sets. But I could either double click here and add the resources, or I can edit via dialog. So again, here is they're empty, so I'm gonna double click and start adding the resources. So I know that Charity, No, and Noah are handling those, so I need to find Charity. So I selected Charity. I'm gonna add more, so let me go ahead and add the resources, Charity, then Noah. And then as I mentioned, right, we have resources that are more qualified towards the bottom, so that we, leave those less utilized, because they're going to be more utilized because they're able to handle more. So we're going to keep them at the bottom. So now I'm changing my resource 3 to, as I said, Molly, because Molly does product 1 and product 3. Then Anna, she does all 3 products, and Sammy, who also does all 3 products. So I'm done with product 1 set, and then I'll do the same for product 2. Well, not quite the same, but similar things, because product 2 is served by Tierney, Aiden, and Emma, and also cross-trained Anna and Sammy. So I need to find Tierney, and then Aiden and Emma, and then add Anna and Sammy. And this is my product 2 set. And then for product 3, I'm gonna also double click and add people to product 3. So I know that Maya, Ian, Christy. So I'm gonna add Maya. I'm gonna add Ian. And I'm gonna add Christy. And these are just for product 3, but also Anna and Sammy are cross-trained, and Molly is cross-trained, so I'm gonna add Molly for product 3. And then add Anna, and also Sammy. And so now I have all my members for product 3. And the next thing I want to do is to change this C's module for different tags. So here we're gonna do some changes. So I'm gonna go ahead, go in and change this. Instead of tag 1, I'm gonna edit, and it's gonna be a set. So I'm changing the type of resource from resource to set. And I'm gonna select product 1. It's gonna be quantity 1. My selection rule is gonna be preferred order, so that they're seized in the order that they're entered in the set. And then I'm gonna save an attribute here, because later some of the calls might need some back office research, so we want them to talk to the same person. So we're gonna have tag agent index, so that we can later seize the same person from the set product 1. And we're gonna do a similar thing for the rest of them. So I'm gonna go in here, I'm gonna edit, I'm gonna change this to set, I'm gonna change the set name to product 2. Here I'm in my selection rule, I'm selecting preferred order, and the save attribute is gonna be tag agent index. And so that's okay. And last but not least, the third product. So I'm gonna edit this, I'm gonna change the resource to set, the set name to product 3, the selection rule to preferred order, and my save it attribute. By clicking here, I can select from drop down menu text agent index. So I only needed to type it up once, and then it automatically creates the attribute in the attribute data module. So now I got tag agent index here, I'm good. And if you look at the attribute, in addition to sales call priority, what we had before, after I typed it in here in this process product type 1 tag call process module, now right when I typed it in there, it created this tag agent index. So any entity going through any of these will pick up a attribute called tag agent index that allows them to see the same resource later on. Alright, so this is the first part in terms of the sets. The next thing we want to do with the sets is to collect countersets, collect counters in the same set. So we're going to talk about counter sets, and we have a set of counters, one counter which is a statistic introduced for each hour, and we can count number of rejected calls in each hour, and then individual counters will be defined. So let's go ahead and define the individual counters in a statistic data module, and after that we're going to use the results to decide when to increase staffing. So let's go ahead and do that. So here I'm going to go to advanced process to find my statistic module. I'm going to click on statistic, and then I'm going to add statistics. So to represent these number of rejected calls during different periods. So let's say this is going to be my period 1. Actually, let me do 0, 1, because we're going to have 10 periods, so I want them to all be ordered in a specific order. So it's going to be 0, 1, and my type of statistics is going to be counter, and then the name is going to be for the counter, period 0, 1, rejected calls. And then we're gonna have this replicate as the initialization option. So now that we got this counter, I'm gonna double click and keep on adding these. So it doesn't really let me do that, so I'm just gonna change it to period 0, 2. Counter, and then period 0, 2 here, and then again I have period 0, 3. Counter, and also counter name period 0, 3 rejected calls, and then period 0, 4 counter, and here name period 0, 4 rejected calls, and then period 0, 5 counter, period 0, 5 rejected calls, and so on. I'm just gonna continue it like this. So now you can see I already added period 0, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then I'm gonna do the final addition and add period 10 counter, and then have period 10 rejected calls. And so now I have all of my counter statistics, period 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So now the next thing I want to do is combine them into a set, which I can do by going to the basic process. That's where my set data module is located, and double click here to add another row. I'm gonna have the row in which I'm gonna record the rejected calls. So I'm gonna name it rejected calls, and it's not gonna be a resource. I would like it to be a set that will contain counter type statistics, so I'm gonna put type as counter, and right now it's empty. If I double click, I can see that's empty here. But I can add all of my rejected calls in here, so I can double click and keep selecting my statistics that I define in the statistic module, And so I'm putting all my period 01 rejected calls, period 02 rejected calls, period 03 rejected calls, period 04 rejected calls, period 05 rejected calls, and period 06, and so on. All the way till period 10 rejected calls. So now I have all of these counters added in this set, which now shows that my rejected calls counter set has 10 rows. So we're gonna use that that counter set later on, but now let's go ahead and do some modification for the call arrivals and a run setup. So some of it I already did. So in the create module, I already added type by schedule and changed the schedule name to arrival schedule. And so the next thing I promised to you was modifying the termination in the run setup. So again, when we created this when we modified this create module and changed it to the type schedule and had the arrival time, we then didn't need it anymore, this arrival cutoff section from that model. So because the arrival schedule cuts off the arrivals at 6 p.m. because we had this 0 rate at the end there was infinite duration. And so we also gonna delete the total work in process variable used to terminate model 5.1, and instead we're gonna use built-in number of resources, right, or an R for trunk line instead in the terminating condition. And we also will delete the assign module used to manage total work in process. So we'll also use the record module for rejected calls. But before I do that, let me go ahead and change the arrivals and the run setup. So as I mentioned, because we're gonna change the run setup, we will not need certain parts, right? So this total work in process was managed by two modules. We had this assign module to increment active calls, and later we had assign module to decrement active calls, and that used total work in process. So now when we go in and change the setup by going run setup, and you can see here the terminating condition was total work in process equals to 0. We're going to change that part through building expressions. We're going to go in and highlight this one because this is the one that we're going to change, and we're going to replace it with the condition was a different condition based on resources, trunk line resources. So resources is a variable in the basic process panel, so I'm going to click on basic process if it's not open yet, and under that I'm going to click on resource. Right, so if I don't have this open, I'm going to click on it, then I find resource, and then in the resource we're going to use utilization, right, or usage, and then what I want to have is the current number busy, which gives me an R, right? This is current number busy for my trunk lines. Trunk line resource. So number busy trunk line resource should be 0, right? If there's no busy, then we can finish, right? If the time is more than 6 p.m., right, which is in our model is 10 hours, right, from 8 to 6 p.m., which is 18 hours military time. That's 10 hours, 60 minutes in each hour, so 600 minutes, right? So after 6 p.m. and when no trunk lines are busy, then we can terminate. So now that we changed this, the total work in process is not needed anymore. So we're gonna do OK, And now we can do away with that variable as well. So I'm going to go in and delete this variable. So I'm going to go ahead and delete the row. And because I don't have this variable, if I don't delete this, this will generate an error for me. So I'm going to delete this assign module. And when I delete this assign module, these connections are lost. So I need to reconnect the C trunk line with the store for initial recording delay. And also I'm going to delete the decrement, because in decrement, again, we have variable total work in process, right, which is not defined anymore. So when I delete it by pressing delete, for example, and then it disconnects these two, so we need to connect them. So now that we connected that, right, and we took care, right, we already deleted that arrival cutoff part of the logic. Now it's all taken care of by doing the changes in the run setup and changing here the create to introduce the arrival schedule. And just to show you, right, in the arrival schedule, if you double click at the very end there, this is our 0, right? After the first 10 hours we have 0, which is the arrival rate, and during the infinite duration, right, for the rest of it, the arrival is going to be 0. So, all right, we're good with that. And that completes the first part of this lecture.